Welcome back to the Mastering Runeterra podcast with Jae and Bay, the number one source for competitive Legends of Runeterra news and information. If you're looking for the best decks to play right now, be sure to check us out on Twitter at Master Runeterra or in our Discord. And if you want to take the next step in leveling up your game, check out our Runeterra team on Patreon, where we do weekly learning calls and one-on-one coaching. Now strap in and grab yourself some Poro snacks, because we are about to start Mastering Runeterra.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Mastering Runeterra podcast with Jason and special guest Henneky.
Hello.
Bay is off at the Flesh and Blood Pro Tour. Good luck, Bay. Hope he does well. So, Henneky, for anyone that doesn't know you, I just wrote down a few tidbits here. So you've made 3 top 4s at seasonals.
Correct.
That's insane.
And I've top cut 4 times.
Top cut 4 times with 1 win at a Joseph Gordon-Levitt's lookalike contest. Interesting.
Yes. Honestly, that's the most common one. The other one I get a lot is Justin Long.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can you see it? Like,
I see it, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of be like that awkward guy in that rom-com that you sort of want them to get with, but sometimes it can be a bit of a bastard, you know, that kind of person.
I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. His name's a mouthful. I think he's awesome. I love him as a fucking actor. I totally think you like resemble him, and I feel like you have like a similar sort of like demeanor as well.
I don't really know what he's like, but
he's like chill and funny and smart.
Sure. I get compared a lot to Joseph Gordon-Levitt because, I mean, I look like him. So, I don't know how much I'm supposed to, like, gesture with my hands on the podcast compared to, like, talk.
Oh,
like,
well, it's a vlogcast, so it goes up on YouTube as well.
I know, but there's some podcast watching.
Oh, yeah, so people
know
people listening at home, you can just, my hands went up in the air, and then they motioned towards my face. Yeah, no, you don't need to do that.
Yes. Do you know what like proportion like of people watch on like Spotify or like podcast stuff compared to YouTube? Or
yeah, about 1,000 people watch or listen, and then we get like, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 ish YouTube views.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
around the same for between everything, huh?
Yeah, they're like almost equal. YouTube has been trending up lately since we started doing like the Runeterra show more, and that's like started to take off. And then now we have this squad cast, and now we're even doing like the Monday meta plug. By the way, now we have Lear doing Monday meta videos, and so like, you know, I guess like the YouTube algorithm is starting to tick up and like
right, because it's like more daily stuff, so it's doing better.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see it grow finally, where it's kind of stagnated for a while views wise. It was sort of just something we've like, I don't know, we started doing and we enjoy doing, and it's crazy to think about. Like, it's been a year now, which seems like both a long time and like not a long time at all.
That's true. It feels like it's gone really quick, like all the LOR stuff, but like I've been playing since like 2020, which is really weird to think about.
Yeah, when did you start?
I started like I guess it was July 2020, like the end of Rising Tides or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when the things lined up. I just started playing. It was when like Crimson Elusives were a thing, but that was probably before your time.
Yeah, I feel like I was like December, November of 2020.
Okay,
it was like right
like
before
when they announced
seasonals.
all the seasonals.
Exactly. Yeah, they were like tournaments. I was like, I'm in. Let me learn this game.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that into LOR. Like, I kind of played it casually, and then I had like accidentally top cut a seasonals, and then now I'm a lot more into it. You know,
accidentally top cut. It was a tough one. Yeah, so I wanted to touch on that. Like, 3 top 4s is an absurd record, and it's funny how we weight first places so much heavier. Like, you could have 3 second places, and like people would still put you like along the lines of like 1 first place. When in reality, like that's like so much bigger. And 3 top 4s is like right there. Like literally, like, you know, you probably had to run good, of course, to like get there, play good and run good. But like, had you ran just a little bit better, like if you won 6 more matches, you could have won 3 seasonals and just been like God's gift to Runeterra. Everyone knows who Henneky is. Like, true. It was like that close. And so, I mean, like, it's not that far off. 3 top 4s is like really, really impressive. It's really well done.
It's true.
I want to dig into those a little bit. So were they in a row, or was like two within a gap?
I think it was first seasonal, second seasonal, and then the fifth seasonal.
Okay.
Fourth or fifth seasonal.
Oh, so I didn't. So the first two were from like the crazy days, like when you had to go undefeated.
Yeah, 5-0. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's harder or less hard, but
I think it's like more higher variance. I think like there were only a small handful of people who went to both 5-0s. It was me, Majin, and Raptor, I believe.
yeah,
Were like the only like repeats.
it's tough.
There might be some other people I'm forgetting, but it was really small. Like it's and a lot of like random people like Jay Sensational get through, you know.
Hey man, I'm still waiting to get through, so I can't hate on my boy.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's segue. There's so much to talk about. We're gonna talk about like seasonals a lot. Obviously, it's because it's coming up. Like, I really want to dig into it. Like, there's a lot going on with this seasonals. You know, it's like the first one for Worlds. We had this crazy long season. There's like so many things that I want to touch on. Okay, so first off, though, I want to plug something. We just launched our best of 3 ban helper, our own Mastering Runeterra one. It's free for everyone to use. You just go to masterruneterra.com. It is now on the header on the side as of like a minute ago, literally. And then also the matchup table, we just launched our own as well. It's nice and big and beautiful. It's a little too big at the moment. We know it's like quite large and you have to like kind of maneuver over.
Yeah.
We are working on it. We're going to make it smaller and more manageable, but that is also live now for you guys to use. It's some very helpful data and information before seasonals, before picking your lineup. And then during seasonals, the band helpers are like real nice just to have that, I don't know, that information right in front of you to just kind of like, you don't have to be like, yeah, that's my band right there, but gives you like a nice little, like a little, I don't know what you want to call that, like a base sort of to go off of being like, okay, I thought maybe this was the band and like now I feel better about it. Or like, maybe I was torn between these two decks and like seeing these stats as you go there. And then you could use it the reverse too, which I kind of like, where maybe you don't know your opponent's decks, what their stats are up against yours as much. So you can see like, oh, hey, this one deck crushes all 3 of my opponent's deck. My opponent's probably going to know that. And then that's like a good chance that's what they're going to ban. And then that now helps you because you kind of maybe take that out of the equation. And now you just look at the stats for your other 2 decks, which is like really cool. Because maybe you were going to ban a deck that was, I guess you couldn't ban a deck in this scenario that it had a bad matchup against, but you don't get that. It like helps you narrow down the field of, you know, what you want to ban.
Now let's go even deeper. Like you can ban what your opponent thinks you're gonna ban. You know, like you can guess that they'll guess what you ban, and then you game them. You know, that's how you get them.
That's right.
You gotta go a level deeper always.
Okay, so speaking of gaming, let's touch on math real quick before we go on the seasonals. Next part. So apologies to anyone that was in our team call last week where Henneky and I shouted at each other for like an hour about math. But we're going to nutshell it here real quick. This is about trying to get an edge by which deck you pick first in a best of 3. So the sort of like line of thinking that's come from like Jizoff is that if you were to flip a coin, if you picked randomly between your 2 decks constantly, you can't be exploited. This means that your opponent can't get an edge on you, but you have to do this all the time. You can't just like deviate from it sometimes.
Correct.
So you can't be exploited, but you also cannot exploit your opponent now. I am of the opinion that first off, Henneky, what do you think? I think most people don't do this. Most people don't flip a coin.
Yeah, I think most people don't flip a coin.
By a vast majority too.
Sure, a vast majority.
99% don't flip.
I think the number of top players that flip a coin actually would surprise you, but
sure.
Like the point of flipping
a coin
is that,
though, right? I'm talking like 1,000 people in seasonals.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking.
There is
1%. Yeah, I go 1%.
Maybe about that. Yeah. No, more than that.
More than that. 5%.
I know. Probably. Yeah.
It's
sure.
generous.
Let's go with 5%. But like, you might know who the people are when you see them.
And even.
But the point of flipping a coin is that no matter which deck your opponent picks, you have the same effective value over the game. So like, because you're playing a distribution of your deck beginnings, instead of just like, oh, I'm gonna pick deck 1 here or deck 2 here, you're kind of like evening out your spread, and that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
And so you can get into a game against like someone you think you can predict, and you can actually gain a better effective value of the game if you know what your opponent's going to pick, or if you know that your opponent, or if you believe that your opponent has like a slight preference towards one deck over the other. So for example, like Majin, he doesn't flip a coin, but he picks his decks somewhat arbitrarily. So if you were to look at his stats and you found out, I don't know, say for example, he picks his Lee Sin 60% instead of like 50-50, then there is going to be a better deck for you to pick than just flipping a coin. So you might want to consider that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so some of the scenarios where this comes up, I find a lot of time if say my opponent was on like, for this season, I was like Pantheon, Talia Ziggs, and like some sort of brew, and I ban Pantheon or Talia Ziggs, one of the tier 1 decks, I feel like they will lean towards the other tier 1 deck first quite often. And this is a strategy that I've used. I wish I would have like recorded my guess and the outcome, because like I don't know how many times you'd have to do this to get some sort of like enough data, like 1,000 times or something. But like if I had been recording the whole time, like I would have some good data to go off of. And I find that I really, like, again, because I haven't been recorded, who knows, but I feel like I'm right more often than not. And so that's one scenario where, and this happens because the opponent probably has put in, so people go with comfort. That's one thing. They'll start with a deck that they feel is strongest because they want to put that up first. And they'll think that the tier 1 deck is stronger. They've probably put more reps into it because you could play the tier 1 deck on ladder and you can't play like the tier 3 deck. Another example someone gave is like when they have like 2 rally decks in another deck and you like ban the rally deck and they like pick the other rally deck. So there's, or in the example like you gave where someone's known for a certain deck, again, comfort, there's a chance. So it's very, I wouldn't say it's very small. It's not worth like putting a bunch of time into to try and like, it's more of a gut kind of thing. And so the other thing that I wanted to come back to with the 50-50 thing, when we were talking about this example, it was say I have 2 decks and one of my decks is 50-50 into both of yours, and one of my decks has 100% into one and 50% into the other.
Yes.
And so when we were talking about it, I thought that if you ever ended up in the scenario where I started with the 50-50 deck and it lost to your deck that I had the 100% on the other deck, that now, because I have to win 2 coin flips, meaning I have 2 decks that are 50-50 into your remaining deck, it's the only scenario where you can get into this. I thought that would be worse, but it's countered by the fact that if I start with my 50-50 deck and I win, I've immediately won the match, because now my 100% 50 deck is always going to get that 1 free win. And so by starting with my deck that has 2 50-50s, my variance is much higher. So I have a situation where if I win that game 1, I've won the match. And then if I've lost that game 1, I now have to win 2 coin flips. So it's, much higher swing there between the win and the loss. Whereas if I start with my other deck that's 50-50 and 100% it's 50% and 100%. No matter what, if I lose game 1, I will always still be 50% to win the match, because I will always get that 1 free win. And so it's like a variance differential there, which is interesting. I didn't like that number came up in our conversation when we were talking about it, and that's also why it gets evened out, like you're saying.
I think you can very intuitively identify, hey, if I start on the 100% win rate matchup, that's going to be really good for me. And that's very intuitive for some players. But what you actually find is that starting, let's call that deck 2 versus deck B. But starting deck 1 versus deck A is equivalently as strong as starting the same thing. And your bad outcome where you lose, or I think you
have to lose
where you hit the other decks,
2,
is equally bad as the. So let's say our bad scenario is deck 1 versus deck B, I think. So we can potentially lose our 100% matchup. that's equally bad as us starting deck 2 versus their deck A. And I know it's confusing when I say these numbers, and there's not like a matrix on the square on the screen,
No,
but like
I
that's
don't.
generally how it goes.
I think that's actually wrong though. That part.
It is equally as bad.
Because okay, so the worst case scenario is when their deck 2 is gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now they have one deck, and you have to win 2 matches into it where you're 50%.
Right, yeah. But you're assuming the case where you lose. Like if you win the 50%, then you just win the match as well.
Yeah, but that's why it's balanced out. But it does put you in a worse position than you could ever be if you started with deck 2. Deck 2. If you start with deck 2, the worst situation you can ever be in is 50% after losing game 1. Because
right, yeah.
So then that's why, because you were saying that it's the same.
It is.
It's the same.
Okay,
it's the same starting. It's the same before you start. But after game 1,
yes.
After game 1, if you start with deck 2, you can never be worse than 50% when you lose game 1. If you start with deck A, you can be, what is it when you have to win 2 coin flips? Like 37 or
7. If you have to win 1 of 2 coin flips?
If you have to win 2 of 2.
Oh, it's 25%.
Okay, so you end up at that math makes much more sense. You end up at 25% to win the match. If you start with deck A.
Right.
Whereas if you start with deck B, you can never be in a spot where you're 25% to win the match. Because the worst case scenario is you start with deck B, and they beat you.
Right.
It has to be their deck number 1, right? They can't beat you with deck number 2 because it's 100% win rate.
Yeah.
So they beat you with deck number 1, and now you have 2 decks left. You switch, you get the free win, and then it's 50-50, 150-50 left. And so it'll always be that scenario if you start with deck 2.
Right, but the probability works out to be the same.
Yeah, because it's balanced out, because the shitty thing of you losing and being 25% with deck 1 is balanced out by the fact that if you win with deck 1, you've won the match. It's done. Because you'll always get the other free one. And so that's what I'm saying with the variance. So on one side, it's always 50-50 if you lose game 1. On the other side, you have this balance between if you lose game 1, then you're 25% to win. But if you win game 1, then you've already won the match. It's done. Which is, I don't know, something else. Anyways, that's all the math we'll do for today. We've already bored people to death, I'm sure. It's interesting, though. It's interesting, things to think about. Because... also, these are a lot of things that get talked about in the poker circle and stuff, and then you get into really weird situations in poker where, for instance, you would almost never fold aces pre-flop, right? Like, so do you play hold'em?
Yeah, I have some understanding of hold'em, and I understand like the ranges and stuff like that. So you basically you would never fold aces pre-flop ever in a cash game ever, because that's just, you're always getting your money in as best as you can. That would never happen. There's weird scenarios in tournaments where the payout structure starts to skew things. Like, for instance, if there were 9 people at your table, and the payout for 9th place is like $100, and the payout for a second is like $1 million. Well, then, and everyone else goes all in. Well, then you just fold your aces, let the one person take all the chips, and guarantee yourself $1 million kind of thing. And so stuff like that can happen at seasonals, where it is very top heavy with the prize pool, and then also it's single elimination at the end, where the stakes being kind of different can kind of change things. You sort of take different risks and stuff. It happens in your play as well. One thing that I think is interesting that wasn't really that never gets talked about when we talk about this game theory and EV optimization. You can tie games. There is a probability that you tie a game. And that should matter, and that does make it not like a diagonal matrix.
What happens in seasonals when you tie a game? I've never tied one.
So I've tied a game in seasonals. What happens is both decks that were played get a win.
Oh, they both get eliminated.
If it's game 1, you just go to the next 2 decks. If I already won game 1 and then we draw, I've won the set.
Oh, that is so good to know. I did not. That's so important.
Right? Now, if you draw game 3, though...
You play again?
What happens?
You play again?
No, you don't.
What happens?
You don't play again.
You both...
The person who won game 1 wins.
Whoa! How did I not know this?
Right.
That's crazy.
Isn't that really? It is crazy.
That's really big. I mean, draws don't happen like that often, but we run a lot of tournaments at Master Runeterra. They happen like in different formats, especially right when there's different cards. Like
Yeah.
what's the landmark? Blighted Ravine. If I feel like if there's I don't know decks that play like a lot of Blighted Ravine stuff like that, because you'll end up killing
Right. Yeah.
both of you at the same
both
time.
Nexuses or ice shards.
Yeah, ice shards.
If we were talking about Star Spring meta, for example, there's a lot of cases where that deck draws itself. Like if you play the mirror, it just draws sometimes. So they had a 10% draw chance.
So, I didn't know that was Star. Do they both just go off at the end of turn? They changed that, right? Is that how
they may have changed it? I don't know, but at the time it was they would both go off at the end of turn and someone would win, or the game would just draw.
Because I remember Tree, it used to be whoever's turn it went to, that person would win first, and I thought they changed it so that both players it was a draw. Yeah. I thought, but I don't actually know. I think so.
I'm not exactly sure because I mean I don't play Tree. Don't you want to catch me?
Who would play Tree? I missed that deck, sort of.
I don't.
Yeah, nobody does. It's just me. Okay. Wow, that is really important information to have. Because if you won or lost game one, makes a big difference on whether or not you want to now draw the game, or if you want to put yourself into a position where your opponent could draw the game. Yeah, damn, good to know. Okay, let's jump into the meat of seasonals and stuff.
For sure,
the season's gone for freaking forever, man. I want to bitch for a second. Last season with Ari Kennan, I went to I don't know 600 LP, and then they're like, yeah, you're good, Jason. The first time I did it, I was like, okay, cool. I stopped playing for 3 weeks, and then everyone had 1,000 LP, and it was just it was a joke. So this season I went to 620 or something. I was like, yo, Maju, what would you do? And he's like, bro, this season is going on for 2.5 months. He's like, I would just keep playing. You're gonna eat over 1,000. You just keep playing. So I just bomb my rating, playing a bunch of stuff, and now here we are, however long later. And top 40 is 600, 570 LPs. Yeah. So I could have just sat on it and been fine. It's not a fan of the ladder. I want a best of 3 ladder. That'd be nice.
Yeah. So for those of you watching, we're recording this on Thursday. I know it's going to be up on Friday, but after we're done recording this podcast, I mean, we're going to do RA, but then I'm going to stream until the
cut off.
Until the thing is over and see how far I can make it up, because I'm at 450 right now. I'm gonna see if I can make a push for top 30 or whatever it is to secure seasonals.
That's gonna be a lot. 250 LP, I think.
200 LP at the the peak time, or a competitive time you would expect.
Yeah.
So it'd be fun.
200 is maybe doable, because we're talking not much time, right? Not that you can't do it, it's just the actual time to play the games. Yeah. If you won every single game, because it cuts off at midnight Pacific, right? I think.
Right. So we have 8 hours or something like that.
It's
from now.
Yeah, 8.5 hours from right now. Plus you have to play RA.
Yeah, I'm not playing, so I'm just gonna sit there and play ranked.
Oh yeah, nice. Well played.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's jump into the meat of seasonals. So this meta's been an interesting one. It's ebbed and flowed quite a bit, with a lot of different decks kind of rising up and then falling down and rising back up again. And the tournament meta has been kind of all over the place. We've seen a Phalios was a deck that hit the scene a while ago, then kind of disappeared. Then now it's come back again. Everyone's oh, it's the hotness. The last 2 Mastering of Tournament tournaments, the top 4 from each was 4 Phalios decks. But the deck is probably overrepresented, and these are pretty small fields of 35 people, which is a bit of I'm a bit worried about, because that's one of the decks that's sort of in my stable of decks right now, and I'm wondering how inbred our results are and stuff.
Yeah.
So
that is definitely a worry.
Yeah. So you've definitely prepared a lot more than I have. So I'm curious, what are you on right now? What are you thinking? What do you like? What do you not like? Give me all your thoughts on seasonals, what you're kind of expecting to see from your opponents.
So everyone's saying there's going to be a lot of Pantheon, but this meta is really kind of all over the place. When we say a lot of Pantheon, it's probably like maybe 30% of lineups, 35% of lineups are going to have Pantheon.
Yeah.
At most.
Because that's
yeah.
like a tier 1, like an Aphelios when it was back busted Aphelios, or like TF Fizz, or I don't know, whatever the tier 1 deck is, Aurelia Azir, maybe like, yeah, you're at the most you're getting 30%. That's when a deck has to like hit a bunch of things, has to be super busted and like kind of popular, because if it's not, there's also like not popular, right? Because like Lee Sin was busted lots of times, but like wasn't that popular, because it also has to be like somewhat easy to play, right? If it's like a Lee Sin Zoe or an Ari Kennen, like Go Hard, like those decks are a lot more difficult to play for everyone.
For sure.
And so like you can't have that like 50% play rate. If it's something more like Plunder or like Thresh Nasus, like these decks are a little, or Pirates, like these decks are like a lot more like straightforward. Like I just play my big busted thing every turn and like beat your face in. If one of those decks,
and then
is the
if
best,
I don't, I lose.
Yeah. So I mean, saying that though, Pantheon is kind of like one of those decks.
Yeah, it can be kind of one of those decks where you just, oh, here goes my 11-12 Saga Seeker into your face on turn 5, and you're like,
yeah,
why?
It's definitely not as easy to play as that though, because I've been punting with it a bunch, I'm sure, because I have not been doing particularly well with it, but I haven't put a lot of time into it, or trying to like figure out like all the matchups, or like even had maybe a particularly good list. There's a lot of lists running around. So yeah, okay, so sorry, so yeah, let's say Pantheon, probably the most played deck though, you think?
Yeah, I would expect Pantheon's going to be up there. The other one I think that might get played a lot is Viego, actually. Viego's been getting really popular this week.
The Mono
I think it's a
Shurima.
pretty powerful deck. Yes, Mono Shurima Viego. I mean, people will play the Ionia one too, because they're, attached to the past, but I think the Sand one is a bit stronger.
Okay, tell me about that, because one of my just won the Master Guitar Tournament yesterday with it, and I thought it was kind of a meme. I didn't think it was that good, but it plays like the Thresh Nasus shell, so I'm like definitely interested.
Yeah, it plays a lot of the early game, so its early game is not like terrible. You're playing like the Fading Icons, and Treasure Seeker is just incredibly powerful for leveling up Viego. You can play Viego on 5, play your Waking Sands, and then the Waking Sand dies and it makes a mist right away. So that's like 6 power on your Viego, like off of 2 mana.
2 mana, yeah, that's pretty sick.
2 banked mana, that is, like, and it's just very, very powerful.
And you hit something for 5 too.
Yeah, well, the line often is people just play their Viego, they play their 5/2, and then they pass, so that it generates like the mist for next turn.
Oh, it does.
So like you can either use it as a blocker.
Does it not? Can't you like? Oh, because if he generates the mist, you don't get the other mist. It's when something else generates a mist that he then generates a mist on the next turn.
So Viego makes a mist when things die, right? If something dies to ephemeral, he'll summon the mist after the ephemeral check, so you can get the ephemeral for next turn.
Yeah, but I thought it was not if he had summoned the ephemeral.
Yes. So wait, no, okay. So you can actually chain it. So like if I had a ephemeral from last turn come into next turn, I can just let the ephemeral die, and then I get another one for the next turn after that. So that's like sometimes what people do is they just keep passing their wake or their mist, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger every turn.
Oh, I didn't realize that it worked like that.
Yeah.
Huh. But if you were to like attack with it and then he made a mist, then you wouldn't get one the next turn, right? Is that
yes, because he used up his trigger, because he only gets one trigger per turn.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's the difference when he makes it or when he doesn't make it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, weird how that works though. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that, because it's very
a bit bizarre.
Yeah, I feel like that's like one of those things where I feel like, I mean, we're sitting here talking about, like, as a new player, you'd be like, what? Why is this happening? It doesn't.
There's a few unintuitive things like that. Like if you had Jinx and you had a fleeting card in hand, like level Jinx, you had one fleeting card in hand and it expires, I think you get the rocket for next turn. It's really weird.
Huh? Yeah, I guess.
But like that's like a common interaction.
So it's the timing of like when checks happen and before the end of the turn.
Yes.
And
so like it's the same way as like when you have a stress testing in hand that's fleeting and it gets discarded, you have a card next turn that's fleeting.
Right. Yeah.
And then you don't discard that right away. You've already passed the check.
Yeah. So
That
weird.
makes sense. It is very weird.
They
It's a bit unintuitive.
Yeah, and I don't hate stuff like that, but it'd be nicer if it was like laid out. Like in Magic, you know the phases and how things interact with each phase, whereas like in LOR, we don't really have that as much. Anyways, okay, sorry
It's
though.
not like written out.
Tell me more about Mono Viego. So, like, well, what do you think of the more like? What do you think of the deck? Are you considering bring it? No, like, why?
I would definitely consider bringing it. It's one of those decks that's like really good into like those aggro decks that kind of you randomly run into in seasonals, but it's also like performing really well against like control, and also like Talia Ziggs is one of the matchups it's also performing well in. Like because Viego just kind of like he's so big, and if you can get him non-vulnerable, which you can easily do by summoning like a bunch of random ephemeral crap, um he just sits there and you get all these big mists, big Viego, and their overwhelm doesn't really go through. And then as soon as Viego's leveled, you kill their Talia, you kill their Ziggs, and what are they gonna do?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, that sounds pretty good.
The other thing it has, like for the control matchups, is it has Ancient Hourglass, and Ancient Hourglass is just so unfair. It's like
busted.
Like perfect protection for 2 mana. And that makes it really hard to remove like a really important threat like Viego.
Does it play rights as well of negation?
Yeah, and like 3 rights from negation.
The
so it's
full
like
3.
I think Jordan was playing 3, but you know he's
Even
a denial. I mean,
even 2 is still like you're gonna like feel the rush kind of decks like a hard time.
Yeah. And the other nice thing about this deck is you get to run Rite of Calling, which is why you run only Viego as your champion. Like, and that means you can pretty much always draw him. And if you don't, you just have 6 copies of Viego in your deck.
Yeah,
and that's pretty good.
Doesn't suck. So are you considering bringing it then?
I would definitely consider bringing it. I'm not on it quite right now, but I still have to do a bit more testing before I know exactly what I'm gonna play.
Yeah.
I have some idea. Like I have a lineup, but I'm.
What do you like? What do you want? What are you thinking right now? Like, see, if you had to
adjustments.
lock it in right this second, what would it be?
So I'm thinking of playing Aphelios, Talia Ziggs, and Scouts.
Oh, that's funny. That's the lineup that I am currently on as well, or as of
Yeah,
like
for RA,
yesterday.
right?
Yeah, for RA.
Yeah, Kever just submitted for you.
Yeah. I was it was my anniversary on Wednesday. We were out drinking. Kevin's like, don't worry. It was like, what decks do you want? I just like told him the decks and he just found deck lists and like submitted them.
I thought he just gave you some random like decks, and I was like,
last time he did.
Really funny.
Last time he did. They asked me what I wanted to play and I gave some options, but then I never submitted deck lists. But that being said, yeah, I was kind of like I was happy with that lineup like 2 days ago. And now I feel like it's maybe just Scouts is the weak link that I'm like a little worried about. I'm feeling less optimistic about it. I'm thinking maybe it should be Pantheon or Mono Viego. Those are like kind of
my question is, why are you worried about Scouts? What are you worried about running into?
A lot of mid range.
I
don't really love it with a lot of like the mid range decks running around, like all like I don't know, Luck stuff, Heimer stuff.
Right.
They're like just a lot of, and then like it kind of has a bit of a fail rate where like sometimes you're just like,
sure,
they killed your champ, you didn't draw a champ, you're just kind of like just drawing 1-drops off the top of your deck. The thing is,
I kind of feel like Scouts has 12 champions. You know, it has MF, yes, it has Quinn, but it also has Vanguard Sergeant, it also has Broadwing Protector, and it's just like those cards are really, really insane.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I was blowing people out of the water. And so this might be one of those things where, like, I definitely did a lot of winning with the deck and was very happy with it.
Yeah.
And then did, like, a little bit of losing and was like, fuck this deck, I'm out of here.
Oh, no. Yeah. The thing is that people always say about Scouts is, like, you don't have a lot of agency. But I don't feel like that's quite true.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's a lot of improvements you can make to the decision-making in Scouts.
To be fair, looking back at my last loss, I think I played poorly versus Black Boss and then lost. It was just like, deck's bad. So like as I was losing, I was like pretty sure I could have done a few things differently there.
Yeah,
like a lot of things. To like potentially even win that game. But also the other reason is that I feel like maybe I should just be playing Pantheon just cause it's so freaking busted, and it seems like It just keeps winning. Just keeps doing a lot of winning.
The reason I'm scared to run Pantheon particularly is because I just don't want to get run into aggro and get run over.
Is it that bad?
And I think that's the possible. Like, UFO, it's like sometimes you just like get like an 11-12 Saga Seeker and their hand sucks.
Here's the thing.
But
here's the thing. Everyone keeps talking about that, right? Being afraid of running into aggro. What's the aggro deck? What's the aggro lineup? You got Pirates?
Pirates. You get like, you can play like Scion, Rumble Draven, and then you play like anything pretty much. Yordle in Arms, Nightfall. What am I thinking of?
The Ziggs.
Bandleburn.
Ziggs. What was?
Yeah, like Bandleburn, Ziggs Gnar, or Ziggs, whatever.
Yeah.
Champion.
I feel like all of those third decks though are kind of trash.
I kind of think they're fine. Like if they're in an aggro lineup, they do what they need to do. Like they get the job done.
I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah, they all just seem like kind of weak. Like, it's. So I mean, like,
I think aggro is a good option. Like, there's a lot of things you can go after.
Well, then, I was gonna say, why haven't we seen aggro kind of pop up? It could just be that no one's bringing it to like the Master Runeterra tournaments or whatever. But like everyone, like it's been Pantheon everywhere. I guess Aphelios, which we should talk about. Aphelios, if anyone doesn't know, this is like the hotness right now. Has a good matchup with the Pirates, right? It's supposed to be pretty good. I guess
it's a very good deck into aggro for the most part.
Yeah, you just go get Aphelios and like just gain some life and spit out a bunch of dudes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just vomit like 6 units on turn 4 and they're like,
huh, I haven't dealt you any damage yet.
Aren't I supposed to do that? Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah. Let's talk about that deck a little bit. So like, why has this now? Because like this came out like Drizzloff dropped this deck like what, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, like a while ago.
Yeah.
And it hit the scene. It was like, oh, kind of hot. And he was like, look at my crazy win rate. And everyone kind of tried it. And then everyone kind of just put it down and was like, yeah, it's a deck. So what changed?
People played it. Like there was a group of people who played it a lot at the beginning, and then they all put it down. At some point, I was in there. I was like, "Hey, what if I play Aphelios? This looks fun." And then I did really well with it. And then people hopped onto like this bandwagon. It's like, "Oh my god, this deck's actually really, really good." And it is. Like it does so many powerful things. It has a lot of ways to win the game. Like first, you can go really, really wide with like a million phase. And that can be tricky to answer. But then you also have this like attached game plan, which is like painfully uninteractive for a ton of decks. You just have these elusives that can't be quicksanded, can't even be hushed. You can't hush the attach units or quicksand the attach units. And then you get the assistant librarian value. You have Fizz who can double attack you, and just do like 10 damage in one attack. So like you only need to get like a couple attacks in with these like attach units.
Yeah,
and that's on top of your really, really wide game plan. So like,
and then
does a lot of things.
Yeah, then you have Plan C, which is Aphelios just doing like Aphelios things and like grinding people out.
Yeah.
He comes in super handy with like Overwhelm and Lifesteal and stuff as well. The attach unit's so annoying. Like when we have like Papercraft Dragon on phase, you're like, haha, quicksand it. Like it's still a 4 or 5 power like quick attack unit. Like what are you putting in front of that to like kill it? Like it's really tough to deal with.
Honestly, like you play against you're playing like Shurima. Sometimes you're happy to see them put a Papercraft on a Fizz even though they do 10 to you, because like it's like the only thing you can actually quicksand, because you can't quicksand an elusive librarian, and all these sort of things just like beat you up without you being able to interact with them. And even if you are able to like kill this assistant librarian, that's like a 5/4 elusive. Guess what? They get the rainbow fish back, and they just throw it on the next like the owl cat.
Yeah, that's the thing I really don't like attached. Them getting it back in their hand is like, what the fuck? Like that, like coming from Magic, like that's not how it works. Like your thing gets binned with everything else. Like you don't just get to like value town your opponent.
Yeah.
So
you should pay 1,000 life points to get your Acts of Despair back on top of your deck. That's just how it should work.
What is that?
Oh wait, no. I think there's like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. There's like an OG equip spell. I think you either tributed a unit or you paid like 1,000 life points, and then it got put on top of your deck when it left. It was just like a weapon.
Is 1,000 life points a lot of life points?
No, it's like life points don't matter in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So are you locked for Aphelios then? Is that like one of the decks that you're like 100%?
I think Aphelios is like the one deck I'm like, yeah, I 100% want to be on this. I think like you don't have a lot of bad matchups. You have like Pantheon, which can be scary.
Just
but
banning
like,
that, right?
just ban Pantheon, man. Like I can't be bothered to play into it. It does too many silly things.
Yeah. Okay, and then Talia Ziggs, are you on the traditional version or the what is it called, Targon version?
Right. So the a recent development of Talia Ziggs is that some people have cut the bandle part from Talia Ziggs, so like your Pokesticks, your Inventive Chemists, and like
Maybe Arsenal.
the Arsenal. The Arsenal.
I like the
Is
Arsenal.
the
I'm a fan.
one big guy. I do like the Arsenal, but the point of Targon version is you get to run Chip, who is a 1-mana 3/3, and this means your matchup into aggro actually gets a lot better because you have a 1-mana 3/3, so you can block a lot of different things and not die. So you're kind of hedging against like a matchup that is traditionally bad, going into seasonals.
But
I think it's like a reasonable plan.
Yeah, those are some, Chemist, Pokestick, Arsenal. Like those are some cards.
They are some cards. Like I think people are like, this Chemist card is so good, and I'm like, is it? Like, what is it? Is it doing that much? Like, it's good, sure.
Yeah,
It's a landmark.
I don't actually like. I wasn't playing Chemist for the longest time. I was on the only play it if you want to hedge against aggro, camp or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't think it was actually that great.
And if it's only for aggro, just play Chip.
Yeah, I mean, my sample size is small, but like every single season, because there's only been so many seasons, but every single time I've been like, oh no, what to do about aggro? What to do about aggro? And I'm like, I figured it out. This is what I'm gonna do. Where I have just enough hedge against aggro, and then I never ever fucking see an aggro lineup. I see like one in 9 rounds or whatever. Just be like, why did I even bother? Why? So this time might be different. Aggro is a lot better, I guess. Apparently,
yeah.
I still don't think it's that.
I mean,
everyone thinks
I think it's
good.
pretty good.
It's like I think what people think it's good because it's good into Pantheon. Right?
Good into Pantheon, good into the normie Talia Ziggs, right? You can just kind of like even with Chip, I still think it's a pretty troublesome matchup. But like I'm like, if it's one thing that's got to get out, then I can get it out.
Man,
that's as much as I need.
I still have PTSD from like bringing aggro or un-aggro deck and just running as someone that was on like 3 hardcore Targon decks and just like absolutely obliterated me. And like I don't know, there's so many like there's actually like Field of Rush and even like Mono Shurima. It's like has a lot of game. What else is there? I don't know. Darkness.
The thing is like, what are you gonna play with Field of Rush?
Like, so that's the thing. Everyone's really like, so. You could apparently play Aphelios. One of the decks that won Master Runeterra was Aphelios, Field of Rush, Darkness, and it beat a bunch of the Talia Ziggs, Aphelios, like Pantheon kind of lineups.
That actually surprises me.
Yeah. So it caught my eye, but then the 2 days after that. But there was none of that shenanigans. It was all just Talia Ziggs, Aphelios, Pantheon, and
I think better than Darkness would be Viego at least. Like I think that's a deck that you can play into aggro, and then it's still like pretty good scaling.
Mono Shurima, Viego.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like that's what I've heard from like What Am I or whatever as well about Field of Rush. It's like, what do you play with it? But like, I don't know. I feel like you can make it work. And people definitely will. It's not like people won't just jam some decks in with it. And I mean, fair enough. Sure. You could ban it, right? If there's not that many bad matchups. I have a theory though that a lot of the matchups, the matchup like percentages that we see, like for instance, you'll see aggro decks doing well on the ladder all the time, right?
Absolutely.
The problem with those stats is that like they're skewed because of like a bunch of things, right? Like who's playing each deck, how well each player knows how to play their deck. A lot of the time your opponent isn't going to be extremely skilled with their deck. They're trying out new decks. They're, they don't know the matchup. They're playing a deck that's complicated and you need to play it well. And so I feel like when you play in seasonals, when you're playing against people who know their decks really well, like even the the 1,000th player or whatever in seasonals
Sure.
is going to know how to play their own decks. The majority of people will know how to play their own decks, and they'll probably know how to play them into aggro because like that's like a somewhat straightforward matchup. And then you get into like as the better players in seasonals, which you will run into, especially in the final stretch there, the last like 4 rounds, when it's like undefeated players. You're gonna be running into these better players, and I feel like again those odds start getting a matchup that should be 55-45 where it's like it's favored, maybe it's a lot closer to 50-50, and
That's true.
And I feel like historically triple aggro hasn't done well, right? Like I'm pretty sure someone put the stats together, Boulevard or someone, I'm pretty sure, and like triple aggro has done like historically very poorly in open rounds of seasonals, and I think that's why. I think
if there is a lineup you want to just like, I'm gonna have this lineup, it's gonna carry me, I don't have to do a lot of the legwork, that's triple aggro.
Yep.
If you really want to try and skill gap your opponent, you're not gonna get a lot of space doing aggro, but you're gonna be quite troublesome for a lot of these like standard players. It's a great way to punch up if you
for sure
if you're sleeping on yourself.
Yeah. No, for sure. It'd be really interesting. I wish we had all of the deck lists from seasonals. Like, first off, why would Riot not release that? Because it's just awesome content for the community. Yeah. It'd be really interesting to see like what are the odds, because we never actually know, right? Like we're like, maybe it's 30% Pantheon and maybe it's 10% triple aggro, but like we don't actually ever find out.
Yeah, I mean, I see it compiled in like a couple. Like,
do they exist? I didn't even know they existed.
I don't know. I think they exist. I've seen them somewhere. Because I remember maybe it was before, like I was queuing up for seasonals, and someone sent me like the EU distribution, and I was like, oh,
yeah, yeah. I feel like I have seen this stuff before, so there must be a way to get it. You must be able to pull it from the API.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that, because that'd be interesting to know. Like how many people are bringing triple aggro season after season. I wonder where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say that I wanted to just like be like triple aggro can't hurt me, doesn't exist. I'm just gonna like close my eyes and pretend it's not there. If you remove a pillar from the format like that, all of a sudden it gets a lot easier to like try to figure out what you're gonna target and like what decks you want to bring. How would that change things in your mind? Like, what would you like go after? Or what would you try to be good against? Or what would like raise in stock now that you don't have to worry about this? Like, is Pantheon
go for the greed?
Is Pantheon looking better?
Like, what are you going to do against Pantheon if you don't have triple aggro? Well, I don't know what people can possibly do. Like, there is an Ionia lineup that's like, I'm going to play a Philios Lee, I'm going to play Kindred Viego, I'm going to play like...
I got beat by that lineup, yes.
Like, who's doing that?
My opponent's
no one's actually going to do that in seasonals. Like, if you run into them in MR, like, sure, but like... kind of a weird take, bro, if you're doing that.
Yeah. That said, though, I've seen people have success with like these strategies where they play like 3 like pretty rogue decks. Like Deep was one that used to be up in there. How about like Thresh Asol, where they play these kind of like 3 weird control decks, and like it just gives people problems. So they're like, I've never played any of these matchups before. I don't know what I'm supposed to ban. I don't know what I'm supposed to mulligan for. I don't know what's important here. And on the other side, you as that player know very well what's good for you, not good for you, and like there's definitely an edge to be found there.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, you go after these big decks like the Pantheons, the Tilia Zigs, or whatever it is, the Aphelios. Like there's an Aphelios target lineup. It's like Scouts, Echo Zillion, and like I don't even know what the third is, but it's like there are ways to like beat these top decks. But I don't think it's your best way to qualify for seasonals. Like, how many people are actually going to play Aphelios? Probably not more than 10% of people in seasonals.
Yeah.
Like there's the tournament grinders. There's like the tournament grinders, and they're all like, oh yeah, everyone's playing this Aphelios deck. I should play this Aphelios deck. But then everyone's like on ladder, it's like still a pretty small play rate.
Yeah, everything's a pretty small play rate on ladder though. Like the highest is Pantheon the highest? But like whatever the highest is, it's like what 6% or something of all decks. I will say this though, I've noticed that definitely as time has gone on, people are much more with it. Like you go back to seasonals number 1, no one had any idea what the fuck they were doing, right? Seasonals number 2, a lot more, and then like 3, 4, as it goes on, like it hits spots where just like everyone knows what's up. Everyone's like people aren't just like not in the know. People aren't not watching Bay, not watching Master Runeterra, not watching the other big streamers, not like looking at YouTube, not looking at Runeterra.ar. Everyone's doing these things. And so like
you know what? People were doing that from the beginning, actually. You know, like my first seasonals I played 4 Go Hard players. My second seasonals I played 4 TF Fizz
yeah,
players.
everyone knew Go Hard was the shit going into that seasonals. That wasn't like news. But something like a Aphelios, that like hit the scene kind of like this week, you know?
Sure.
And so if that was back then, like I feel like just like no one would know. Whereas I think that a lot more people are interested in the deck and like could potentially be bringing it. This one's gonna be pretty wild west though. I think as much as we're talking about all these decks, I think we're gonna run into a lot of like, oh hey, some like Jace decks, and oh hey, some Lux decks, and some Heimer decks, some Ezreal decks, and some Brews, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a pretty big mix between like the top ones, like Talia Ziggs and Pantheon, and then a bunch of Brews.
I was actually on a Jace list until like just like a couple of days ago. I was gonna play Sentinels, and I think I sent you a lineup for like an article or something. I was gonna play Sentinels, Jace, Elise Vi. I still think that deck is really, really good.
Yeah.
My issue was like it is such a liability. Like there are so many decks you have to like protect it from. Like you can't really play against Aphelios, and then you can't really play against FTR. So there's a lot of things that are just kind of scary for it.
Yeah, not good into like a wide meta.
Even like Scion is like 30%, I think. Like, so I was like, maybe I won't do this.
Yeah, talk to me about Scion. I think it was you, or like a lot of people on the team were all of a sudden real hot in Scion, and I've just like not touched it with the 10-foot pole since like the first nerf basically, and been like, nah, I don't think this is really the business. And like it seemed like I was like, it's good, it's maybe okay.
Yeah, I was on Scion like around the same period. Like I dropped it. I still think the deck's really good. I had a lot of success with it on ladder against like a variety of things. But it like when I was testing against like strong players, I wasn't getting the success like it needed to. There were a lot of bricky hands, especially in my like Rumble build.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't doing what I needed it to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That's like kind of like been my experience with the deck.
But it's still like a pretty good deck. Like it's like quite close against Aphelios. If you want to be like pretty average against literally everything, and even slightly ahead against Pantheon, like Scion's your deck. If you think you can just skill gap everyone without bricking, go for it.
Oh, it's slightly favored in Pantheon? That doesn't suck.
Yeah. That's something good for it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why it like fits in the aggro lineup, is like you just kind of beat up things.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Sorry, I want real fast. Which Talia Ziggs version are you on?
So I'm on the Targon version.
You are?
For now. Pending. I have a few things I want to test between the Bando version and the Targon version, and we'll see what I end up landing on after tomorrow. But there's like some interesting tech choices, I think, for either version.
Interesting. Yeah, that's another thing about this season, that a lot of the lists haven't like congealed like they usually do.
Yeah, that's true.
Like typically going in, there's like one or two. There's like a good list, and then there's like, I don't know, like a slightly worse list, or people's like lists that are. But there's like a sort of established, like flushed out, like pretty damn close 40. Whereas like almost every single deck I can think of right now has like multiple versions with lots of flex spots.
Yeah, the thing is, there's like a few versions of the deck. There's like staple versions, and then there's like what Kever plays, and then there's like what Am I plays, and those are like all very different decks. And they all like to have their weird little tech choices. And you can, it's funny like seeing who like these players in like seasonals like net deck, and you're like, oh, that's Kevor's list.
Yeah,
I remember playing the MR last week, like when Aphelios started to get played. I was like, wait a minute, they're all using my Aphelios list. Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, you gotta get
and
your
now
deck
it's
somewhere.
like moved off that, but like it was funny at the time.
Are there any other decks or lineups that you're considering?
I might just end up on something with Pantheon. Like, I don't know exactly what that would be, but maybe I just play Zigstalia, I play Pantheon, and I play
Peleus?
something good. FTR even, like, yeah, Phalios is probably too good to turn down, but like, there's a lot of good decks, just of high power level. And I think you just want to be on 3 good decks for the most part when you're building your lineup this season.
Yeah, I so badly want to like roll the dice and play some like control nonsense, some Feel the Rush, Darkness, whatever. But like, if What Am I isn't doing it, I'm like, how the fuck am I going to justify doing it this season when he does it every season when it's like not supposed to be good? It does well, and he's like, okay.
And then he's playing Pantheon. You're like,
yeah, he's
maybe
like,
I should play Pantheon.
He's like, this season it's so not good enough, or there's such better options. I'm like, yeah, I can't actually justify doing it. Also, now this is like the first season that qualifies for Worlds, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Kind of weird though. I feel like there's a weird on one hand, maybe it's like my microcosm, but like on one hand, looking on Twitter and stuff, it feels like people, it's like popping off. Everyone's excited about seasonals. Lots of people from the community are qualifying for the first time and stuff. It's like really exciting to see. But on the other hand, like I feel like a lot of like, I guess maybe it's just our team and stuff, all the Master Runeterra team and stuff. Like, I don't know, like Bay's busy, I'm busy. A lot of the guys in the squad are busy. And there's not as much sort of like hype and like get everyone together and crunch a bunch of games and try to figure stuff out. It's kind of just like, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many seasonals, like it's been a while since we've actually had that, like, oh my god, I'm so excited for seasonals again.
Yes,
like,
so that's because like they stopped qualifying for Worlds. The ones for Worlds were super exciting because they meant so much, and then the next ones were like pretty because you're just playing for money. It's like,
I think we're all just sitting here like, yeah, I'm just gonna make it the Worlds, no big deal.
I feel like that's what it is. I feel like the light bulb hasn't clicked that we're now qualifying for Worlds. I think the next,
there's no panic.
I think the next 3 are gonna be like, oh shit, there's the list. Like, I gotta get climbing.
Yeah, I mean, this season was like 100 days long or something like that. The next one's like 50. The one after that is 30 days.
No, it's
or like something like 40 days.
It's
maybe
5 weeks. Yeah,
it's like 4 or 5 weeks. It's so short.
I like that.
That's insane.
I
like that. That'd be exciting.
I'm like still asleep from this fucking 2.5 month season. I'm like, I need some guy, like seasonals are gonna hit. I'm like, oh shit, I was supposed to be doing stuff, and then like I'll run into a bunch of seasonals coming.
And we have another 2 seasons before August. Like, we're having another 2 seasonals in the next 3 months.
That's pretty hot. There's this big announcement coming. I guess you guys will be happening already by the time it'll be this morning. But I don't know what DC is, like the 9 a.m. where they're like announcing like a bunch of new cards or whatever. I don't even know. I don't even know what it is. Riot reached out to me at Bay to like co-stream it, and we're getting some skins to give away, but like I have no idea what it is or like what we're doing or what's going on. I think tonight I'm supposed to get show notes so that I know what's coming, but like they seem excited about it, which is cool. But I feel like they're not very good at like, I don't know if you want to say communication or planning or building hype, but it's literally like, hey, tomorrow we're doing something awesome. Like, fuck, what? Like, I haven't heard from you in 2 months.
You guys are doing something awesome tomorrow? That's awesome.
Yeah, like I don't like, why wasn't there like, why didn't you announce this like, I don't know, a week or 2 ago or something? Like, let us know that cool shit was coming so everyone could get like riled up. I feel like most people probably don't even know.
This was the shit we knew was coming back in like January, March, or February. February was like, they were like, oh, we're gonna get Jin. I don't know if you're not too familiar with like League stuff, but I heard. But Jin is like this artist guy. He's cool.
Big on Force.
Yeah, so we're excited to get him tomorrow. I think that's what it's supposed to be. The reveal tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't. That's the thing. I don't even know.
I mean, I don't want to squeeze information out of you.
No, I actually don't know. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But what I'm saying though is like they announced the live stream like yesterday or something.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it is
Tuesday. Weird. They could do a little bit better of a job there. I feel like it's weird because they do such a good job at planning everything, and then at the same time it feels like rushed and thrown together. I think it's like they're probably just always behind, right? They're probably just always like trying to get shit. They're probably putting up fires like nonstop. We're out here on the outside, be like, hey, fuckers, do better. They're just running around with fire extinguishers the whole time. Like, fuck you! Fuck you! Can you fix the clock? Like, how about you suck a dick? Like, That's definitely what it is. I feel for them. But yeah, hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's fucking. I have like something tells me it's gonna be good. I feel like, and I really hope that there's.
Tells you, huh?
I don't know. I seriously don't know. I tell you what I tell you what I know. I'm like, hey, sucker, I know it's gonna be awesome. And then you guys are like, fuck you, Jason. These rule changes suck. Why you stop hugging those fucking riot nuts? Like, I'm like,
I didn't say
win.
that.
Can't win. It was
Word for
specifically you. You popped out of nowhere, slapped me in the face, and the
You're
kid
paraphrasing.
teleported back to Toronto. Anyways, so yeah, hopefully more cool shit's coming because, like, I don't know. It's one of the things I feel like we need. Like, it's a little stagnant.
I mean, it's just been a while since we've had like a reveal season, right? Like,
yeah. I mean,
the last cards we got were in like January, weren't they? Something like that.
Were they?
Like, way long ago.
no, it must have been at least February.
Like end of January, early February, something like that. It's been a while though.
It's supposed to be every other month, but I guess they had the March break. I think it was February, but still, yeah, it's a long fucking time. Yeah. And just like in general, also, like, you know, they like copy pasted the tournament scene, which was a pretty big letdown. I knew for forever ago that they were going to do one last seasonals casting, but they decided to wait till they decided to wait till the last second to tell everyone. Why?
Yeah, that was odd to me. I was like,
Why did you wait? Like, they knew like a month or two ago.
So I was really confused by the announcement too. So is this the last seasonal?
This is the last
they're like taking
one.
a break and then bringing them back?
No, they're just fun.
I thought they were bringing them back.
My understanding is they're just gone after this one. They're doing one last one, and then they're trying to hand it off to people like us in the community.
I see. Like crowdsource it and then have it like more officially, but they're not doing it.
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do. But again,
I see.
Again, I was like, hey, should we be putting seasonals coverage together? And I got crickets for forever, and then I had to like use some of my background dealings to find out that no, they are doing their own seasonals. So I was like, I would have done all this time and effort and planning, and at the last second, they would have been like, hey, we're doing seasonals. I'm like, fuck. Like,
that's true. That is suck for an active community member like you.
Yeah, I mean, so whatever, not a big deal. But again, though, like, we're just building the hype is the thing that I'm more like, you know, people would have got excited about that, interested. Hey, and like, you know, maybe they're unhappy with the viewer numbers. Maybe you should fucking tell people when things are happening and where they can find it. Like, remember, like, was it Worlds? And like, yeah, that was weird. Impetus Panda, like, had to be the one being like, this is the time that all the tournaments are happening in the streams. And like, it just wasn't even like out publicly or anything.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah, I really hope they crush. They said they're gonna crush Worlds this year, and that, you know, they're scaling back seasonals and focusing on Worlds. And I mean, they did a good job last year, frankly. For like a lot of coverage, though a lot of the hype, a lot of the gameplay, I felt carried a lot of things.
That's true. I hope they have qualifier streams this year.
They better. They freaking better.
Last year, that sucked.
Yeah,
Dude, I had such a dope game and no one saw it.
Dude, Majin went on his crazy like lose round 1, win 7 or 8 or whatever in a row to make it to top 16. Like, what a story, what a run. And like,
I decked out Darkness.
That's fucking dope.
No one saw that.
There would have been so much good. Even just like with all the names, right? It's all the best players and a lot of the best streamers and content creators. Like, you just want to see those names go at it. Like, that's what makes such good coverage.
Sure.
And like, it's one of the things about having these shards that like sucks, man. I want to see Bay versus JO1 versus Allen, you know, all like you, of course, all the fucking top players from all the regions. I just like to see you make that face when you lose. That's what I want to see. But because no one beats Allen. EU dominance. Anyway, just like, how cool is that? Like, it's just, we just never ever
very cool.
get to see it. And like, I feel like it also miss out like some community building and stuff. Yeah,
top 16 feels too small, but maybe they can't do more. I don't know. I guess if you want to show like every single game, you can't do more. But like,
well,
I don't know. I wouldn't mind having.
Yeah, I think the big problem is like the time zones. I guess that's like what you run into.
But they did it anyways. Like Yamato was playing his finals match.
Yeah, I was thinking if you took all the people, the 180 that qualify for the group,
that's true.
and then just match them all into pods. Like, how cool would that be? Like pod of death, and like, I don't know if that's better or not, because like you just get
that'd be insanity.
Like eight of the top, like the top 8 people or whatever, just in one pod.
I think the thing is like with like when you run bigger events, like even like seasonals and like and something like that, like it's just really hard to build narratives. And I think that's something that community has trouble with, in terms of like making the competitive content and like more engaging for like the average viewer, because you can't really like make content about a player if you don't know they're gonna top seasonals, if you don't know they're gonna qualify for worlds or whatever it is.
Well,
you know?
I mean, counterpoint to that, like I come from Magic, where there's a lot more variance in the game.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. So like there's like just every single top 8 of the Pro Tour, it's like, 8 different people practically.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard from a viewership standpoint. But like in LOR, there's players like you and What Am I and Bay that are like top 32ing like a majority of the seasonals. And so like you can really, what I mean, like both of them
that's true.
have like kind of built careers off of that. And you can build a lot of coverage and stuff around that. So I've always thought that LOR, because it's so skill intensive, it allows the best players to rise to the top. So Alan fucking won Worlds. Like the dude that plays the game 24/7, has been streaming it from the beginning, ends up like winning. Like
but how come he never topped? He's only topped like one seasonal then, right? Like that's like the same. Or like the counterpoint to that is like he's not in every seasonal.
Maybe he's not as good as those other players.
Maybe he's no Sergey Tuvamos, One thing like with regards to that I am excited for this seasonal is I think Max Got the Tracks is doing a fantasy draft stream for like open qualifiers of seasonals.
Yeah, I saw
where
that.
Like a bunch of people like pick their players to make it and stuff like that. And I'm like that's exciting.
That's fun. That's really smart. That's really good content. I saw that too. I was like, that's genius. That's really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like the community like needs stuff like that, like more interesting, more fun content like that. We do need some help from Riot though. Like Riot, like the more cool shit Riot puts on, the easier it like kind of is for us. So like for instance, like when we were talking about like the seasonals like coverage and stuff, like Bay was like already qualified once they announced Worlds, and then like it was like kind of like moot. He just like went on to Worlds. It would be really nice if it was like some sort of league system where like even if you qualify, you still have something to play for. Like if there was like a points race or something, like how cool would that be?
Yeah, that was something I like. Other people were like, man, I'm so like this. I gotta get seasonal points, stuff like that. And I was just sitting there like, I've qualified twice already, and that's not as exciting.
Yeah.
Suffering from success. That's what that is.
Yeah. I think with the like a point system would be really cool because again, it allows the audience and the general public to see like, oh, hey, these are the people at the top that have been crushing again and again. And you could do things where like maybe you get to Worlds and you get like the seeding or whatever is like done different, or maybe you get a bye in the first round, or buys depending.
Maybe
because like they do that in lots of like NFL does that, lots of sports do that. Magic has done that before, like lots of times with Grand Prix and stuff. And so it just gives you also it's more fun for it's a small amount of people that are like top 4ing consistent or that are top 4ing, especially this season, right? But it just makes it like imagine the top 4 the first one. You're just like, well, I'll just wait here for 10 months until we finally get there. Anyways, who knows? I'm hoping that next season's like gonna really fucking kick ass. I hope they like really turn it up next season.
The thing is, like the momentum for this season is like really, really fast because we talked about like the seasons are so short from season to season from here on out.
Yeah,
like it's gonna be crunch time this summer,
and it's gonna be like a lot of exciting. Like now we have all the regions. It's gonna be like new set after new set of just like new exciting shit. Where I think they're gonna be pushing the boundaries of the game. So yeah, it really feels like we're on like a fucking cliff. And like we're just like on the precipice, and we're gonna like a snowy hill or something. And we're gonna once we go like get like this Saturday, it's just gonna go faster and faster and faster and faster, all the way to Worlds. So yeah, I'm fucking excited for it. All right, bro. Well, we've been here for an hour. We should probably wrap it up. You have any final words, any final thoughts, anything to like share with people, any tips or anything going to seasonals? Anything that you do personally that you feel like maybe you do better or differently than anyone else?
take a break. Like, don't just sit here and be like, oh, I'm gonna play a game. I'm playing another game. How's Majin doing? You know, if you just sit at your computer all day while playing seasonals, you're gonna suffer. So take a walk, have a snack, go outside, get fresh air. It's really important to just like not spend 10 hours straight or 11 hours straight or whatever it is thinking about LOR. So don't do that. Also follow twitter.com/Henneky1 and that's like guaranteed top cut.
There you go. Are you gonna be? Do you stream seasons?
I think I might this season. I think I will.
Yeah, I do the stream with no cam because I do like you. I need to get up and walk around, go outside.
Yeah.
Listen to some music. Also, like I have these big ass lights pointed at me and shit. I cannot just sit here for 11 hours like being blinded by them. So I just stream my gameplay.
Yeah, I think the last time I streamed it, I took a picture of myself and just me going, and then I froze. I took a picture, and I just left my score on the thing and left. Like, and that was
oh
the
my
whole
god,
stream.
that reminds me. I wanted.
And I O2 dropped.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of a. I don't like spending any like mental energy on anything else. I was totally gonna record myself for like maybe 5 minutes, just like doing some like random shit, and then just loop it, and then just like put it up on my stream and just see if like people like noticed. That is
even like just hitting like turn on stream and like not thinking not thinking about it for the rest of the thing is like still
yes
work. Like it's still mental
it's
stress.
still
So
it's still anything. I don't like it at all. I won when I won my first big Magic tournament. I was gonna live stream it and I was gonna do it was like in person. I was gonna try and do like I had the camera and I was gonna do like the live streaming and everything, or even recording. I was like gonna record a bunch of my matches and in between and like vlog it. And I just ended up deciding not to. And like looking back, I'm like 1,000% I would not have won had I tried to do that at the same time with all that extra mental energy and stuff.
Maybe I won't stream then.
Yeah, kind of. It's fine though. You hit start streaming, you downsize it, you just fucking ignore it.
Yeah.
Then the rest of us can bird you going O2, make ourselves feel better for losing the last round.
Then I can make fun of like the backseaters who are wrong. That's the nice part. Like if I look at the chat, I can make fun of these losers.
There you go. Yeah, I'll be in there. It'll be perfect.
Okay. Yeah, after you O2 drop, you can come watch.
I never O2 drop. How dare you?
That's true. You do always grind it out to the end.
last round. This season,
get there once.
Yeah, this is probably not going to be the season for me though. I literally I've played a handful of games. And I just don't know. I just don't know how to like mulligan perfect really well with a lot of my decks. I don't know it's a lot of the strategy that I need to know. So I'm definitely going to try and pick some things that are like on the easier side to play. Just try my best.
Sometimes you run some hands and you run hot,
That's
right.
How
it is.
That's right. I mean, all those other times I went X1, I lost in the last round. Same thing. I played like a handful of games typically and just played some good decks. And that's kind of good enough to go so far. And eventually just, run a little bit hotter. All right, let's fucking wrap it. Good luck, everyone, tomorrow at Seasonals. We'll see you guys next week. Henneky, thank you so much. Filling in for Majin. Appreciate you.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
All right. Peace, everyone.